Hi everyone, I hope you've had a nice day and were able to get outside a little bit. I know I did. I'm excited to get into chapters 11 and 12 of Despero with you. I feel like we left on a real cliffhanger yesterday with Despero being sent to the dungeon. But first, I did want to do a quick mindful moment. So, as you can see, I have these beautiful flowers here with me today. My mom actually sent these to me earlier in the week. She is always one to help out where she can. And in an effort to help some of our local businesses this week with everything going on, she sent some of our family members these beautiful bouquets. So I thought with these flowers here, we could do one of my favorite mindful practices where we discard our negative thoughts and we hold on to our positive thoughts. Similar to our virtual beach walk, this one is going to involve flowers, but it's a nice visualization of filtering our thoughts and really hanging on to the positive. So I invite you to close your eyes and just picture a flower. And for each petal, I want you to picture something that is weighing you down, something that is making you feel overwhelmed or anxious, any negative thought you may have, anything that gives you that like uh-oh feeling, and just pluck that petal off that flower and discard it. Just keep doing that till we've cleared our head of all of the negative thoughts. And if something pops back up, you just go ahead and pluck that flower again. So take a moment to just clear the negative thoughts from your head so that there's room for us to absorb all of the positive thoughts that we have. And when you're ready, I want you to start picturing a whole garden with lots of flowers and trees and bushes and plants. And for each flower, I want you to think of something good in your life, someone or something that brings you joy, things that make you happy, things that you enjoy doing. Maybe it's a sport you like playing, maybe it's singing or dancing or playing an instrument. Maybe it's spending time with your friends or family. Think of all of the things that we have in our life that are positive. Maybe it's just a specific person or specific people. And really attach them to each plant or each flower that you see in your garden. Really picture the colors that you see. Try to really visualize what this garden looks like to you. And everyone's garden is going to be a little bit different. For me, I love pink flowers. I love white flowers. So my garden would have a lot of pink and white, but what would your garden have? Really try to visualize it so that it's a place that is visually appealing to you, but also a place where you feel happy and safe and calm. And now know that this is a place that exists inside of you, and you can visit this place whenever you like, whenever you need a moment of being surrounded by your happy thoughts. I want you to just picture this garden. So I'm just going to give you a moment to be in your garden. Really absorb what it looks like. When you're ready, you can bring your attention back to me. So I hope you guys all were able to find a happy place inside of you. And maybe yours didn't have a lot of flowers. Maybe it was mostly trees, and that's okay. But I do love the visualization of the flowers. Color often makes us very happy. So when we picture things in a variety of colors, it can be quite beneficial. So feel free to use that anytime you need to. You've now all pictured your garden, your happy place, so you can go there anytime you like without having to maybe even clear your negative thoughts. Just picture the happy thoughts. You're already there and you already know what it looks like. So I hope some of you take advantage of that if you need to. And now let's get into Tale of Despero, Chapter 11, The Thread Master Cometh. When Despero came to, he heard the drum. His father was beating a rhythm that had much more boom and much less tact. Together, Lester and the drum produced an ominous sound that went something like this: boom, 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 tap, boom, 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 tap. Make way for the thread, cried a mouse who was pushing a wooden spool of red thread through the crowd. Make way for the thread. Boom, 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 tap, went the drum. To the dungeon, shouted the mice. Despero lay on his back, blinking his eyes. How he wondered, had things gone so terribly wrong? Wasn't it a good thing to love? In the story in the book, love was a very good thing. Because the knight loved the fair maiden, he was able to rescue her. They lived happily ever after. It said so in the book. They were the last words on the page. Happily ever after. Despero was certain that he had read exactly those words time and time again. Lying on the floor, with the drum beating and the mice shouting and the threadmaster calling out, "Make way! Make way!" Despero had a sudden chilling thought. Had some other mouse eaten the words that spoke the truth? Did the knight and the fair maiden really not live happily ever after? Reader, do you believe that there is such a thing as happily ever after? Or like Despero, have you too begun to question the possibility of happy endings? Happily ever after, whispered Despero. Happily ever after, he said again as the spool of thread came to a stop beside him. The thread, the thread, the thread, murmured the mice. I'm sorry, said the mouse behind the spool, but I have to ask you to stand up. I have to do my job. Despero got slowly to his feet. On your hind legs, please, said the threadmaster. It's the rules. Despero stood on his hind legs. Thank you, said the mouse. I appreciate it. While Despero watched, the threadmaster unwound a length of red thread from the spool and tied a loop. Just enough for the neck, muttered the mouse. No more, no less. That's what the last threadmaster taught me, enough thread for the neck. He looked up at Despero and then back down at the loop of thread. And you, my friend, have a small neck. Threadmaster raised his arms and put them around Despero's neck. He leaned in close, and Despero smelled celery. He could feel the threadmaster's breath in his ear as he worked at tightening the thread. Is she beautiful? The threadmaster whispered. What? Said Despero. Shh. Is the princess beautiful? The Princess P? Yes. She is lovely beyond all imagining, said Despero. Just right, the threadmaster said. He drew back. He nodded his head. A lovely princess, just so, like a fairy tale, and you love her as a knight loves a maiden. You love her with a courtly love, a love that is based on bravery and courtesy and honor and devotion. Just so. How do you know that? Despero said. How do you know about fairy tales? The mouse leaned in close, and Despero smelled celery again, green and alive. Be brave, friend, whispered the threadmaster. Be brave for the princess. And then he stepped back and turned and shouted, Fellow mice, the thread has been tied. The thread has been knotted. A roar of approval went up from the crowd. Despero squared his shoulders. He had made a decision. He would do as the threadmaster had suggested. He would be brave for the princess. Even if, reader, could it be true, there was no such thing as happily ever after. Chapter 12. Adieu. The sound of the drum changed again. The final tat disappeared, and it became nothing but boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Lester used only his tail, bringing it down with great force and seriousness upon the drum. The threadmaster retreated. The room full of mice fell silent, expectant, waiting, and as Despero stood before them, with the red thread around his neck, and the 14 members of the Mouse Council perched on the bricks above him, 2 burly mice came forward. Black pieces of cloth covered their heads. There were slits for their eyes. We, said the bigger of the 2 mice, will escort you to the dungeon. Despero, Antoinette called out. Ah, my Despero! Despero looked out into the crowd of mice and saw his mother. She was easy to spot. In honor of her youngest mouse being sent to the dungeon, she had put on a tremendous amount of makeup. Each of the hooded mice put a paw on Despero's shoulder. "It's time," said the one on the left, the first hood. Antoinette pushed her way through the crowd. "He is my son," she said. "I want to have a last word with my son." Despero looked at his mother. He concentrated on standing before her without trembling. He concentrated on not being a disappointment. "Please," said Antoinette, "what will happen to him? What will happen to my baby?" "Ma'am," said the first hood. His voice was deep and slow. "You don't want to know." "I want to know. I want to know. He is my child, the child of my heart, the last of my mice babies." The hooded mice said nothing. "Tell me," said Antoinette. "The rats," said the first. "The rats," said the second. "Yes, yes, oui, the rats. What of them?" "The rats will eat them," said the second hood. "Ah!" said Antoinette. "Mon Dieu!" At the thought of being eaten by rats, Despero forgot about being brave. He forgot about not being a disappointment. He felt himself heading into another faint. But his mother, who had an excellent sense of dramatic timing, beat him to it. She executed a beautiful, flawless swoon, landing right at Despero's feet. "Now you've done it," said the first hood. "Doesn't matter," said the second. "Step over her. We have a job to do. Nobody's mother is going to stop us. To the dungeon." "To the dungeon," repeated the first hood, but his voice, so deep and certain a moment ago, now shook a tiny bit. He put a paw on Despero and tugged him forward, and the two hoods and Despero stepped over Antoinette. The crowd parted. The mice began again to chant, "To the dungeon! To the dungeon! To the dungeon!" The drumbeat continued. Boom, 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 boom. And Despero was led away. At the last moment, Antoinette came out of her faint and shouted one word to her child. That word, reader, was adieu. Do you know the definition of adieu? Don't bother with your dictionary. I will tell you. Adieu is the French word for farewell. Farewell is not the word that you would like to hear from your mother as you are being led to the dungeon by two oversized mice in black hoods. Words that you would like to hear are, "Take me instead. I will go to the dungeon in my son's place." There's a great deal of comfort in those words. But reader, there is no comfort in the word farewell, even if you say it in French. Farewell is a word that in any language is full of sorrow. It is a word that promises absolutely nothing. So we will read more with Despero tomorrow, but I hope you enjoy my flowers and the flowers that you have now pictured in your garden, and get ready for another week.